Hey guys, what's up? This is Michael with Strange Shapes and welcome to another tutorial. Today we're going to be making this balloon inflated effect that you can put on text or shapes or a lot of different things in After Effects. It's pretty fun, it's easy to do, so yep, let's get into it. Let's have some fun and make something kind of weird. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is come to New Composition. We're going to call this one Text and Shapes because that's what's going in it. I'm going to keep the resolution at 1440p. Feel free to do whatever you'd like. I found that for the aspect ratio, 16:9 does work best for this, just because you want kind of a wider composition. But if you want to do 1080 by 1080 or keep it 1:1, that works too. It's really whatever you guys want to do. We're going to set the frame rate at 30 FPS and the duration for the video at 10 seconds long, and then we're going to hit OK. From there, we're going to go up here to the Shape tool. Let's make sure that it's on rectangle. And then if there is a fill, you want to turn that off just by clicking the fill button right there. And we want to turn the stroke on. So just by doing that, you can set it just by clicking the name right there and it'll bring up the options. Now you can choose whatever color you'd like for this. I'm going to just do orange because that turned out pretty nicely when I did it previously. Now the stroke size that I found works the best for 1440p is 195, but you might want it thicker or thinner, or if you're on a different resolution, you just might take some tweaking to get it where you want. But I'm going to keep it at 195 for now. And then what we're going to do is double click the rectangle tool while you're holding control. So control double click, it'll create a nice border around the image. And once we've done that, you're going to come up here to the text tool, click in the frame and type whatever you want. I'm just going to do balloon effect. Go ahead and align it how you'd like. If you don't see the align tab on the right, you can come up here to window, make sure it's checked off. And then I would scale this guy up. Now a good rule for this, and I'll touch base on this again later, you don't want anything touching the edges quite because this is going to grow with the effect. And if they're clipping, it might look a little weird. So just get it kind of close to the edge, but not touching. I'm going to recolor this guy to be the same as that, but you can use any color you want. And then once that's in a good spot, we're going to make some shapes around the text. Now this part is totally optional. You don't even have to make shapes. I found it was kind of fun and it kind of emphasized the balloon effect more, but do what you want to do here. I'm just going to make a few, and then we might have to turn off stroke and turn fill back on. Yeah, that's looking better. We do want the color to be the orange. All right. Now feel free to do whatever you'd like here. I'm going to make several shapes, and I'm going to do that just by selecting them, hitting Control D, duplicating that shape, and moving it where I'd like, and sizing it down. Now my anchor point's not where I want it to be. You might be having the same issue, and if you are, all you have to do is come up here to the Pan Behind tool, Control double click it like we just did with the shape, but this time it'll set that anchor point in the middle of the shape, so it's much easier to resize. So I'm just going to make these go around the text a little bit and resize them each just so that there's some variety around the picture frame. Cool. And again, I want to emphasize, don't put things too close to the edges on any of this, because when they do grow from the effect that we're going to do, the clipping can get weird. So I'd say just give it a little bit of space, nothing too crazy, and you should be okay. If you did make shapes, I found it was kind of fun to make them grow a little bit. So we're going to select all of the shape layers, hit the S key for scale, make sure the timeline's at the beginning. We're going to keyframe that. Just move it up a few seconds. I'm going to move it up to 3. We're just going to make them grow in size a little bit. Again, you don't want anything touching. So for a few of these, you might have to go in, manually scale them down a little bit, but that should be good. I'm going to select all the keyframes here and hit F9 to easy ease them. Alternatively, you can right click it, go to Keyframe Assistant and hit Easy Ease once they're selected. And then just for some variation, I'm going to move the end keyframes a little bit just so that they don't all grow at the exact same pace. Cool. And now that we've done that, it's wiggle time. What we're going to do now to get that little floating balloon effect is select all the shapes again, hit the P key for position, and we're going to add a wiggle expression to each of these. So how you do that is you are going to alt click the stopwatch here and type in wiggle, open parentheses, 3,5, close parentheses. That will set the expression where we want it. Now feel free to mess with these values a little bit if you'd like. You can make it a more extreme wiggle by making these values higher, or you can make it a slower wiggle by making them lower or spaced further apart from each other. The leftmost number is the frequency at which it wiggles, so it's going to wiggle 3 times every second. And the right is the amplification that it'll do over its starting amount. Now, if you're not super familiar with the expression, that might not make a ton of sense, but if you mess with these values, you'll see pretty fast what it means. The wiggle can get very extreme or very slow. It's kind of fun to explore, but this is where we're going to hit for the tutorial. And once we've set that, go ahead and copy that expression. So Control C. And then to make this easier, I'm just going to collapse each one as I do it, and then do the same thing on the one below it. So Alt click the stopwatch there, and then just paste that in there, Control V. Collapse it, Alt click the next one, paste it in, collapse. Alt click, paste, collapse, so on and so forth. All right, and once you've done that with all of your shapes, it should look something like this. So now they grow a little bit and there's a subtle movement to them. Cool. The next thing that we want to do is come to the text layer here, right click it, go to create and hit create shapes from text. This will hide the original text layer, so if you wanted to, you could still edit that later, but now we're going to have shapes in place of text. And this is good because we want to edit each letter individually. Make sure you have that wiggle effect still copied, and what we're going to do is open up that text effect, go to contents, and now you should see each individual letter here. This part might take a sec, depending on how many letters you wrote, but what we're going to do is open up each letter, go to transform, find that position stopwatch again, and do the same thing that we did with the shapes. So you're just going to alt click it, or command click if you're on Mac, paste that expression in there, collapse that letter back, and move to the next one. Open that letter up. All you need to do is go to transform, alt click that stopwatch, paste that expression in, close the letter. Move on to the next one, go to transform, alt click position, paste that wiggle expression in there. So on and so forth until we have done that with all of the individual letters. Okay, and then when you're done, it should have the same effect that we gave the shapes. Yeah, so now each one is moving independently from the rest. Cool. Once that's finished, we can collapse that back so we have more space. And then we're going to create a new composition by hitting this button right here in the project panel. And we're going to call this one main. Everything else can stay the same. Now we're going to drag our previous composition, text and shapes, down into this frame. And now we have this to play with. So with the text and shapes comp selected, we're going to go to effects and presets and type in CC glass. It's already going to inflate a little bit, but we're going to make it even better. So the first thing we're going to do is mess with some of the parameters. We're going to change softness to 40 and height to 45. We're going to go to light intensity. We're just going to tone this down a little bit, set it at 85. Go to light type. We're going to change that to point light. and set the height around 48. So now we already have this kind of 3D inflated effect. Pretty cool from just some flat text and shapes we had a moment ago. Now to emphasize the 3D effect, I made the light move. It's also just kind of cool to do. So to do that, make sure that the timeline's at the beginning, go to light position, keyframe that stopwatch. Make sure that the anchor point for the beginning is kind of just in the middle of your composition. It doesn't have to be exact. Then we're going to move the timeline to about 2.5 seconds. Go back, hit that anchor point, and this time we're going to make it go to the other end. Cool. And if you click the layer and you hit U, you can see the keyframes. Then we're going to move it to about 5. I'm just going to copy this beginning keyframe and paste it at the end. And then let's easy ease those. So again, you can select all of them and hit the F9 key. That'll easy ease. And now the light will move across the plane. Pretty cool. We're going to change a few more parameters. So go to shading. Let's make diffuse 61, specular 90. Give it a little more flare. All right, that's it for CC Glass. Go ahead and select text and shapes again. Go up here, and now we're gonna find CC Plastic. Give it a little more shine. Let's change some of these values. So let's open these up. We're gonna set the softness to about 52. Again, we're gonna change the light to point light. And we're gonna animate it the same way we did the other one. So for light position, make sure the timeline's at the beginning. Hit that stopwatch, go to about 2.5 seconds, and move the anchor point to the other side. Go ahead and hit U twice on that layer again, and now you can see the new keyframes we've created. And then move the timeline down to 5 seconds. And copy that beginning keyframe and paste it at the end. And then lastly, we're going to easy ease those. So now it should be in sync with that first light. Yeah, pretty cool. And that's the effect, you guys. Pretty simple, easy to do, kind of fun. Again, feel free to play with those wiggle values. You can play with different colors for everything. You can even make everything expand a little bit more if you'd like. Just have fun, play with it. But all right, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you learned something or had fun. Keep making cool, weird stuff. I'll see you guys next week.